Nick's tears are back, and he's got takes. Why is he labeling the Rams as a spoiler? Allen versus Mahomes becoming a regular playoff encounter. Can Allen take the crown as the AFC's best quarterback with a win on Sunday? And might we be, shall we be seeing Tom Brady for the final time this weekend? Some say yes. We say good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome to a jam-packed 2 hours of First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, Kevin Wildes. You think this could be it, Wildes, for Tampa Tom? Could this be the end of it? The end of the road?
You know, he's accomplished so much in his career, Jenna. I think that now that the final accolade of passing the goat to the baby goat, it could happen.
Oh, okay.
Boy, we ran that animation so early.
I really
All right, we
thought
start in
that
the
was
NBA,
a
though, this morning.
Okay.
With the Lakers hovering at 500, panic mode appears to be setting in. A report from The Athletic yesterday that head coach Frank Vogel's job is in jeopardy. No big surprise why. The team's failed to meet expectations so far this season. And as a result, Vogel's being evaluated on a game-to-game basis, no pressure, and could be let go soon if things don't improve. Broussard, they're not going to fire LeBron. Should Vogel's job be in jeopardy?
No, it should not, Jenna. Frank Vogel has proven that he's a very good coach. We remember back in Indiana where he gave LeBron's big three with LeBron, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh in Miami all they wanted in 2 straight Eastern Conference Finals. And Vogel's weapons, a big three of Lance Stevenson, David West, and Paul George. Or you could throw in Roy Hibbert, however you want to work it. But that was his arsenal. And he gave them all they wanted. We obviously saw a couple of years ago that Vogel guided these Lakers, to a championship. I feel like him being fired will be the front office protecting itself and scapegoating Vogel for putting together a bad roster, an ill-fitting roster, okay? All of us knew, once we heard the rumors that they're looking at Russell Westbrook in the trade, we all were like, what? Like, I was like, there's no way this is happening. It doesn't make any sense. And I wasn't alone, all right? So they brought in Westbrook. Now they're old. All right, Vogel's teams have always been great defensively. Even when he was in Orlando where he didn't have good teams, they were in near the top 10 defensively. But you gave him an old roster that's really incapable of playing great defense consistently, like for long stretches of time because of their age. And then LeBron, whenever he's won championships, we all know the formula. He's had shooters around him, and you gave him a roster that really doesn't have much shooting at all. Not to mention, they haven't been healthy. LeBron and Anthony Davis have played 15 games together. They are 8-7 in those games. No, that's not great, but only 15 games together, and you're going to fire him? And here's the last thing, Wildes. Where are you going? All right? I mean, it's doubtful, not impossible, but doubtful that you would bring a coach in from the outside. So you promote David Fizdale right there on your staff. They were 1-5 when Frank Vogel was out with COVID protocol and Fizdale was running the team. So a new voice isn't necessarily going to do it. I would like to see them, you know what? Empower Frank Vogel. Tell your players, look, this is our coach.
Wow.
We're going to win or we're going to lose with him. That just like Pat Riley empowered Eric Spoelstra when Miami, a lot of their players wanted to get rid of him in the first year of the Big Three. Riley stuck behind him, and you saw what happened. And whilst I get it can get so bad at a certain point that you just got to do something and you got to get rid of the coach. But at 22-22, with AD on his way back, I don't think we're at that point just yet.
Okay, so I think the empowering the coach idea is fantastic. And if that didn't happen and I was Frank Vogel, I would elegantly quit. I'm like, this is not for me. I'm a big rip the Band-Aid guy off, Nick. I would quit. I would be somewhere between somewhere between David Gettleman retiring and Magic Johnson surprisingly saying, I'm not going to be here and laughing in the Lakers corridor. Somewhere between there, that's where I would be. And here's why. I do not think, Nick, that you can coach and be effective on a game-to-game basis. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care if you're making calzones. If you're on a calzone to calzone basis, you're going to be second-guessing yourself. Oh, what's this person think? What's my boss think? What my coworkers think? Your calzones are going to come out terrible. It's about respect, too. They won the championship 15 months ago. LeBron got up there in front of the world, said Lakers organization wants his respect, Rob wants his respect, Vogel wants his respect, and I want my darn respect, too. That was 15 months? You rehauled a roster and you took away your shooters in your defense. You brought in a bunch of old guys. And I know you're going to say, but Wilds, what about the rotations? What do you want him to do? If Rob Pelinka stacked the roster with a team that he thinks can win, I think it's Frank Vogel's responsibility to try some things out. And it obviously hasn't worked. And now I don't think you can try anything out if you're on a game-to-game basis. So if I was Frank Vogel, I would elegantly quit and say, you know what? Time to rip the Band-Aid off, Magic Johnson.
Wow.
I'm not going to be here. I'm out. Rip the Band-Aid off.
You guys all said interesting things. Aside from reciting Vogel's resume from 3 jobs and 8 years ago, what I didn't hear a lot of, here's what I love about Frank Vogel. Here's what Frank Vogel, since the championship, has done great. Hold on, I'm just curious. I didn't know that in sports we were able to coast off past accomplishments. That's a new thing. Would we all agree the Lakers underachieved last year? I would. Would we all agree they are underachieving greatly
some injuries
this year? Yeah, I still think even with the injuries, the 7 seed and being in the play-in was something of an underachievement. Would we all agree that the most important player that Vogel needs to get through to and get the most out of is Anthony Davis, and on that front, he has failed? Would we all agree on that? Like, LeBron is going to be
I don't
LeBron.
agree on that.
Well, you don't?
I don't agree on that.
So, okay.
That's
so,
Anthony Davis.
So, I'm just curious.
That's on Anthony Davis.
Oh, come on. You can
It's
do
not on
it.
Vogel.
Come on.
The first year together,
then
he got
who
the most
cares
out
if
of
they
AD.
fire him?
And they won a championship.
Okay, so
they got the most out of AD
matter.
and they won a championship.
Okay, so right, and I'm talking about again. I'm having the very short view of the last 2 seasons. That's all. Just a longer, just the same period of time that Tom Brady's been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. That's what I'm evaluating it off of. So here is what I think, because Wilds, I read your tweets. I don't love them,
thank you.
but I read them. And a lot of this is like, it's just layered with, LeBron, who put this roster together, now they're going to scapegoat another coach, without ever actually saying what Vogel has done post-title to not deserve to be on the hot seat. Everyone involved with the Lakers should be uneasy, except for maybe the 37-year-old who's going to win the scoring title. Everyone else should feel like, gosh darn it, I could be traded, I could be fired. The idea that Frank Vogel's, like, it's an insult that a guy who needed a dozen games to figure out you can't play Rondo and Westbrook at the same time, who needed even longer to figure out DeAndre Jordan is fossilized, that guy should just be a made man, it's a little odd to me. And Broussard, I want to ask you this. Why didn't Frank Vogel empower himself? LeBron James doesn't have a gun to this organization's head. LeBron James signed a contract extension a year ago, after the championship. 3 years left on his deal. Goes into this year with 2 years left on his deal. That is an argument that Pelinka, if Pelinka didn't think Russ would work, but LeBron wanted it, Pelinka could have said, okay, doesn't matter. I'm the GM. You can't call the trade in. And if Vogel, thought Laker film room and silver screen and roll figured out 6 minutes into the season that playing centers is a bad idea, then don't play centers. Tell Pelinka, you gave me the roster. I watched Moneyball. Hey, you pick the roster. I fill out the lineup card, buddy. Like, some of this, Frank Vogel is a grown-ass man who just got a contract extension. Are the lineups not his call? is the ability to look Anthony Davis in the eye and say, you have not played up to your standard. We need more out of you. He's not allowed to do that. If he's not allowed to do that, then he's not the right guy. If he is allowed to do that and he hasn't done it, then why hasn't he? Tell me. Just tell me. Tell me
but
what.
How do you
what
know he hasn't had those conversations with AD? And look, Nick, they gave clearly when they put this roster together, the plan was to play big. All right. And in fact, there was a story the other day that Kurt Rambis talked to the coaching staff about maybe we should play big and try to, be the biggest team in the league. Right. So I don't have a problem with Vogel when I've got a LeBron James, when I've got an Anthony Davis, which gives me room for error. I don't mind experimenting with lineups. I got to see what works. So I don't have a problem with experimenting with the DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard at center. But now he's come to the conclusion so far that when AD gets back, he will be the center. All right. I think that's big enough, personally. Anthony Davis and LeBron James on your front line. In today's NBA, big enough. So I hear you. You are right in that I'm not saying there's no chance Vogel could be fired a little later in the season if things really go south, but they're 22-22. Their second best player has been out almost half the season, and he's on his way back.
I'm fine with that.
Give them a chance to play together before you get rid of him, because last year, Nick, I disagree. I thought they looked pretty good when AD and LeBron were able to play together. And then they both got hurt at different times, and that's when it fell off the rails. So I don't think he's underachieved as a coach the last couple years. They've just had a run of bad luck, and now it's a bad roster.
Well, Vogel's got his work cut out for him. How about the Lakers with the third toughest remaining schedule? So that hot seat's getting a little hotter for Frank. All right, let's talk some Bills and Chiefs. Can Josh Allen prove he's the best quarterback in the AFC with a win over Mahomes, Nick? And at the top of the hour, getting you ready for divisional round weekend in the NFL. Nick all set to unveil his new NFL tiers. Broussard all set. Pick it apart. We're rolling on a Wednesday morning. First things first.
Man.
Oh, you're fully slowing down. Okay. Back talking Bills Chiefs. Why we need to slow down? I thought he would taper off. Our friends at Fox Sportsbook have Kansas City as 2-point home favorites on Sunday for Buffalo. They're trying to avenge the loss last year at Arrowhead in the AFC title game. Look, they know they can beat this team. They did it back in early October when they picked off Patrick Mahomes twice and when they won by 18 points. But can they do it again on a bigger stage under brighter lights? Nick, I know I made that sound very dramatic. Do you agree with the Chiefs as 2-point favorites?
Oh, I'm shocked they're favorites at all, Jenna. Broussard.
Wow. Oh, here we go.
You and me, buddy. We're going to be in another... Right prior to this week, Broussard, you and I were only in this group. The group of, if NBA fans could only pick 2 people in the world to have a 6-hour conversation with about the association, it was you and me. And now... we're going to be in another group.
Agreed.
We're going to be the only 2 people in the world that are going to pick the Chiefs this week. I mean, Josh Allen's best player in football. I don't know if you saw the All-Pro list. Chiefs, not a single one. Not one All-Pro. Travis Kelce, second team. Chris Jones, second team. Mahomes, 0 votes. Tyreek Hill, 0 votes. That allegedly improved offensive line, not a first or second teamer. This line opened at the insulting 2.5, and now it's 2, which means the money is pouring in on the soon-to-be dynastic Buffalo Bills. Did you see that they scored touchdowns on 7 straight possessions? Meanwhile, those overrated Chiefs, Broussard, only scored touchdowns on 6 straight possessions. 6 straight possessions of touchdowns. Where do you do that at? So, yeah, I mean, I'm honestly, Broussard, I'm shocked the Chiefs are favored. I figured it'd be, Bills by 3.5, 4, because of how dominant they looked. The Chiefs are the decided underdog. You and I are going to be the only 2, and it's probably just because we picked them to go to the Super Bowl. We don't want to be wrong. I don't know how Buffalo can be beaten. I just don't know how.
Well, Nick, look, I want to go here. And you're the gambling guy. You know a lot more about it than me. But you get 3 points for being at home, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
So what this spread means is that they think Buffalo's the better team, and on a neutral site, Buffalo will win. Now I obviously picked up the sarcasm in your voice, and you and we're both with Kansas City. I don't think Buffalo's the better team. I wouldn't pick them over a neutral site. However, I do understand why Vegas and others would. All right, so I'm fine with the line because I get it. All right, Buffalo, Nick, was more impressive last week. Nick, the Chiefs were impressive, but Buffalo did it against a better team with a better coach and a better defense. So they were more impressive. All right, secondly, they do have the number one defense in the NFL, including the number one pass defense, which is obviously the strength of the Kansas City offense, passing. So there's that. And then they did punish the Chiefs in Arrowhead in October, 38-20. I get it. That was before the Chiefs found themselves, before some guys got healthy on the defensive end. I'm with you there, but I get how the outsiders would look at it and say, they destroyed them by 18. I'm going with Buffalo. And remember, we could say, yes, the Chiefs have gotten their act together. They have. But so has Buffalo. I think when they lost to New England in the windstorm wilds and really were embarrassed, even though they didn't admit it publicly, that they only threw 3 passes and beat them. And then Tampa Bay beats them the next week. After that, they won their last 4. Obviously, we saw what happened last weekend.
Exactly right.
So I think that was a wake-up call for them. So again, I'm with Nick and I'm with the Chiefs, but I understand why the spread is so small.
So I think you're right about the wake-up call, and now they are wide awake. They are like guzzling Red Bull. They're Dan Campbell awake when he's throwing espresso shots in his large coffees, 2 of them to start the day. Yeah. That's how awake they are. Nick, I think the Bills' passion is the X factor here, and it's why they win. And I know it seems like a weird analysis, but there's something that Adrian Phillips said, of the Patriots, said after the game on why the Patriots lost. Was it scheme? Was it a physical thing? He said, I think mentally we just weren't in the right space to go out there and make those plays. I think Buffalo's was, and that's why they got us. Their offense was mentally and physically. So he was talking about how prepared they were in the right mindset. And I think that's a real thing. When you look at how the Bills won with passion. Ryan Fitzpatrick's up there. Guys are jumping through tables. There was a real, fervor. How did the other teams win? You guys won. You had fun. The Rams won by, a swarming defense. The Bucs won kind of boring. But the Bills won with passion, and Broussard touched on it. After they're a very emotional team. They got embarrassed by the Patriots. They thought that they won that second half of the Bucs game, and they haven't lost since. And I know it's wild. You used to say it's all passion. You yourself said, hey, when the Chiefs got their swagger back, that's when the whole season turned. So I think there's a little bit of a swagger bowl happening, and I think the Bills have more of it, and they're going to get over on you, buddy. I've passed my lot with the Bills.
Wilds. I get it, man. Everyone's going to pick the Bills. I mean, I don't know if you've checked Pro Football Focus, the Bible of NFL quarterbacks. Josh Allen's been better than Mahomes for years now. I don't know if you're looking at the lined up interviews for potential head coaches. Brian Dable, his dance calendar's full. Leslie Frazier, his dance calendar's full. Steve Spagnuolo, anyone interviewing him? No. Eric Bieniemy, what does he have? 1 interview lined up? If that, they have the better coaching staff, they have the better quarterback, they have the more the passion factor, which I hadn't even considered. Number 1 defense in football. Like I said, I'm shocked the Chiefs are favored at all. The only possible rationale I can come up with for the Chiefs, who, by the way, I mean, Wilds, I don't know the stat on Super Bowl losers, winning 2 playoff games. It's got to be awful because 17 of 20 didn't even win 1. So it's got to be, 19 of 20? Something terrible. The only possible reason that I can figure that the Chiefs would be favored at all is someone in Vegas has been going to the same amusement park I've been going to, where Magic Mountain Allen has the longest line. And they've ridden it, and they realized, oh my God, the end of this roller coaster is the most exciting of it all. A drop the likes of which we have never seen, and then a rise. Look at this. Has anyone ever talked about an up and down quarterback and have it proven more true right at the crescendo of a season than right now? Quite literally, the lowest low followed a couple weeks later by quite literally the highest high. It can't go any higher. And what do we see on this whole graphic? Does he ever have a stable line? No, he does not. It's almost like the final act might just be a precipitous drop. So the reason I will cast my lot with the Chiefs, that nobody believes in us Chiefs, is because I think the fall is nigh, my friend. And I think as good as Josh Allen looked this past Saturday evening, annihilating the Patriots, Jenna, he might just very well look that bad this Sunday evening playing the Kansas City Chiefs. It's their only hope.
Count on that.
The Bills have the better roster. They have more passion. They have the better coaching staff. The only hope is if Josh Allen gags this one. And methinks he just might, Jenna. Methinks he just might.
All right,
But we'll see.
So Nick's reasoning, the Chiefs won't win. It's that the Bills are going to lose. That's how they're going to come away with it.
Josh Allen.
Fun fact, by the way, between... You know, I'm gonna save my fun fact for the next time we talk about this, because we got to talk some tiers. Which team's gonna top the divisional round edition of Nick's Hierarchy? Oh, we've got some tiers for you on a Wednesday morning. This is First Things First. Here it is, tier time. With Wild Card Weekend in the books, the focus now shifts to the divisional round. 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, which means my kids are doing nothing all weekend, and I don't care. So many storylines headed into this one. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Nick's favorite weekend of the year. So before it starts, Nick, what do you got?
You know me too well, Jenna, and that's why the committee has a celebration over at the house, because it's not only the best football weekend of the year, it's also last time the committee meets, the final tiers of the year. We might have one extra edition, bonus edition by popular demand, but we think this is it. And because this is it, we can't just rank 8 teams. We've got to include some playoff losers and some playoff close calls. Show me the bottom of the tiers, if you would, please. We can go through this very quickly. 5 teams at the bottom need quarterbacks. 3 teams, the second row, have their quarterbacks, but they're not good. Wait, hold on. They have their quarterbacks, they're not good enough. One more note here. The next 2 teams, Cowboys, Cardinals, have everything but their coach. And the Chargers, they're banging on the door, man. Do you tell me the Chargers wouldn't have been more interesting than about 7 of the teams you saw this weekend? But my apologies, there's an error on this graphic. We've never done this. Our last edition of the tiers, and we made a mistake. There we go.
All right.
Patriots out of here by popular demand and by embarrassing yourselves. Remove them. They're not supposed to be on the tiers. Now show me the 8 playoff teams that are still remaining. Final 4 banner. Titans, Bengals. 2 enter. 1 remain for 1 more week. One of these teams is going to make a Final 4, and that's it. It's going to be like George Mason. You can hang that banner. You knew you weren't winning the title. We're happy for you, but it's really the appetizer game, and they're going to be the appetizer team for the winner of Chiefs-Bills. Tired champ. You're beat up. You played more games last year than anybody else. You're tired this year. You're now without your right tackle potentially. You're already without a bunch of wide receivers. There's little rumblings about your 44-year-old quarterback hanging it up. It just feels like the Bucs don't have the juice, the verve that they had last year. They're still very good. Obviously, they were great against Philly, but they're a tired champ. All right, spoiler alert, America. Let's look at these teams here. I think both of these teams could win this weekend. I think, by the way, but that this is the nightmare matchup for both of the for the 1 and the 2 seed. I think the Packers were desperately rooting for the Cowboys because they would have rather played the winner of Rams-Cardinals. And I think once the Niners won, the Bucs were desperately rooting for the Cardinals because they don't want to deal with that pass rush. Von Miller, 6 sacks last 5 games. Aaron Donald, 6 Defensive Player of the Years the last 5 years. At least it feels that way. Going up against a beat-up offensive line. I'm not giving the picks yet, but both of these teams absolutely could win. Top of the mountain. This is the best team in football, guys. That's what you could read top of the mountain to mean. Or you could read it to mean top of Magic Mountain, which everybody that's ridden Magic Mountain knows, right when you think the ride's over and you're at the top, one more big drop. So it depends on it through the eye of the beholder. How do you look at it? Are the Bills the best team, or are they about to plummet down from the summit? We'll see. All right, number one contender, we know who they are. They're the Green Bay Packers. They were the number one contender last week. They didn't play. Not much analysis needed. They've been the number one contender for a while. And staying at the top is the Chiefs. New name, though, Revenge Tour. Let's look at this. What do the Titans, Bengals, and Bills all have in common on the AFC side of the bracket? Oh, they all had the audacity, the temerity, the unmitigated gall to beat the Chiefs in the regular season. Well, two of those three will pay for it in the postseason. And then what about in the NFC? Well, let's think. If the Bucs were to make it, revenge on the Bucs for last year's Super Bowl. If the Rams were to make it, revenge on the Rams for the epic Monday Night Football game the last time they played, 54-51. If the Niners were to make it, revenge on the Niners for having the audacity to lead the Chiefs at halftime of the Super Bowl a few years ago. And if the Packers were to make it, revenge on Aaron Rodgers for contracting COVID and not being available for the Chiefs to beat him down a few weeks ago. So revenge tour. Revenge, revenge, revenge. Dish best served cold at Arrowhead in January. There it is. The tours. The tears. Broussard, your thoughts?
All right. Look, I like the revenge tour. You made a great point. That's a nice little storyline to follow. Okay. Spoiler alert. Yes, those two teams, the Niners and the Rams, both scary. Top of the mountain. I like it. All right. But how many times, how many weeks in a row, Nick, are you going to disrespect the Buccaneers? And you went into your little lazy talk and tone about how they're tired. They're not tired. This is the Buccaneers. They got energy, my man. Yes, they're bloodied but unbowed. How about that? That should be the title. Bloodied but unbowed. All right. They are. Did you see that defense? My goodness. I mean, Shaq Barrett, Levante David, JPP, they're back, Nick, and they are energized. They shut down. I know Philly's not much of a team, but they got a great running game, and they shut it down. The defense, just like we saw the Rams defense this Monday night, and said, wow, they look like the defense last year that we were all expecting. Tampa Bay, this is one of the first times this year that I looked at that defense and said, that's it. That's what I saw last year when they went and won the Super Bowl. So they're energized. Look, they got to have Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Jensen back, especially Wirfs. I think Jensen will play. I think they'll both play. But Wirfs, the right tackle, has got to play. Obviously, he's huge. Leonard Fournette, also questionable. But, you know, I think they can survive without Lenny. I really do. I know he was great in the playoffs last year. But Gio Bernard's back, and they got some other guys.
Gio
so
Bernard.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay should be right there.
Money making
Bernard
Gio.
got you money this weekend. Yes. They should be right there next to Green Bay on the number one contenders, Nick. There's no excuse for them not to. They're way too low.
Broussard, you are a student of the sweet science. I don't know if people know this about Broussard. After the NFL and the NBA, Broussard's favorite sport is boxing. You know, sometimes there's a fighter that's an all-time great, but has just been in too many consecutive epic matches. And because of that, he loses to a maybe inferior but fresher fighter. That's what I think is coming to Tampa. Again, they played more games than any team last year. They have obviously not just an old quarterback, an older team. Sue, JPP, Gronk. Like Evans is at this point, was he in year 9, year 8? Like there's not a lot of guys on that team other than Wirfs, for example, that you would point to as star young players. I just think it's too many games. They're too beat up. They were better than I expected them to be this year, and I will give them credit. But sometimes attrition gets to you. Sometimes, Wilds, you're far and away the best team in football by a mile, and then all 5 of your offensive linemen get hurt, and some mediocre wild card team wins the Super Bowl. Sometimes the right team doesn't win it. Go ahead, Wilds.
No. Okay. I'm going to talk about the Rams. I'll leave the Patriots aside, but we'll be back with the Patriots. Don't worry, Patriots people. I'm going to talk about the Rams. We know that defense wins championships. We say it all the time. But the media, they're like moths to a quarterback flame. We can't help it. Oh, Patrick Mahomes. Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Oh, Tom Brady. Josh Allen's playing great. But who had the best defensive performance to the point where, oh, Arizona, what are we doing? Should we just blow up the franchise, fire the coach? Do we need a new quarterback? Should we tear up Kyler's contract? That is all Aaron Donald. So I think that defense, which statistically wasn't anywhere close as good as last year, starting to peak at just the right time. Now they're going up against a banged-up offensive line with Tom Brady. The Rams are going to advance, and then I think they are going to be the scariest team heading towards the Super Bowl. I would like to move them up. It sounds strange. I would have them be co-number one contenders with the Packers, Nick.
Listen, I think the Rams are incredibly scary. Now, I do want to see Stafford in a road playoff game. Broussard's talked about his playoff record prior to getting to the Rams. He's now going to be on the road in where he's going to have to deal with Tampa, and then even if he beats Tampa, you're going to be on the road potentially in frigid Green Bay if Green Bay is to beat San Francisco, and Green Bay's been a house of horrors for him in his career. But Jenna, Wild said we all talk quarterback while defense wins championships. Fact of the matter is, this wild card weekend, if you just did analysis based on quarterbacks, which team has the better quarterback? 5 of the 6 won. The only better quarterback that didn't win was Dak, and that was because the coaching mismatch was so ginormous between McCarthy and Shanahan, and that game came down to the final seconds. So I do think that for Stafford, he's not better than Brady. He's not better than Rodgers. Now, it doesn't mean the Rams can't get there, but in the playoffs, the better quarterbacks, at least up to this point, have won, which is why, obviously, Jenna, this might be the last time the Chiefs are on the tiers, because everybody knows Josh Allen's better than Mahomes. Just ask PFF. Well, I mean, hell, Garoppolo's better than Mahomes. Ask
psychological warfare
everybody.
with
Mahomes
himself.
Probably the worst quarterback remaining. And just read it. I mean, he's probably.
We'll have. Okay, keep going. Greg Jennings is going to come on and see if all that mumbling really makes any sense. Head to Tampa. Could Sunday really be Tom Brady's final time suiting up? Tell you why we're asking next versus first. Wow. Talking some Tom Brady this morning, coming off one of his best seasons ever at age 44. He's talked before about wanting to play till he's 45, but some are starting to wonder if this Sunday could actually be his last hurrah. Seth Wickersham, who covered Brady maybe more than anyone in New England, said this: "We know that these Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger will retire, but I think Tom Brady will too." Seth not on an island with that take. Tampa Bay Times' Rick Stroud with this quote from Bucs quarterback coach Clyde Christensen. "I'm your typical fan," he said, "and I'll be thinking, is this the last time we're going to see him?" But wait, still more. Take a listen to this from Bill Simmons.
Not inconceivable. This is Brady's last game. I keep telling people this.
Is that right? You think so?
I think everything's on the table after this season for him.
He said 10 more years. You're not even going to give him one?
I think everything's on the table.
All right, Wilds. Could Sunday be Tom Brady's final game?
Well, I think it's very much on the board, Jenna. And look, there's 2 ways
on the table
that athletes leave the game. They're either pushed out or they walk away. Now, Tom Brady was first on the record saying he wanted to play till he's 45. Then he upgraded it just recently. He said he could go to 50 or 55 because being the physical part of the game, Nick, wouldn't be a problem for him. So he's planning to walk away. He's not going to be pushed out. He's not going to play until he doesn't have it anymore and he loses his roster spot. At some point, he's going to walk. And the biggest takeaway I had from Seth Wickersham's books, which you all should get, the biggest takeaway I had was this. Those 20 games that Tom Brady plays, goes to the Super Bowl, demand 365 days of discipline. And that is not only a tax on yourself, but it's a tax on the people around you. And that tax, at some point, Brady is aware of it. And it's almost like he has to make a decision on when that is too much. And there's a little episode in the book where they're supposed to be having family time. And I think Giselle refers to it as Tommy time because he's lost in either film or thinking about the game or doing something. So there's that balance there. And I just wonder at what point, if Tom Brady knows he's going to walk away and not get pushed out, does he say, you know what? Not only do I have TB12 and these media projects, but I also just launched a clothing brand. Maybe it's time now. I've done all that I can do. So I think it's very much on the board.
I think that's very well said. But to be fair, there's a third way athletes can leave the game, lifetime suspension. And Brady's next suspension probably would be a lifetime one. So he's got to be aware of that as well.
See,
he already had the
I was trying
4-game
to be
one, so he's got to be careful.
I know you were.
But
I know you were.
in general, I'm just telling you. In general, Broussard, I know he's always said 45, but that's an arbitrary number. The reason I take this seriously is not just because it's Seth Wickersham and Bill Simmons saying it, both of whom know Tom personally, but also because the reason he wanted to get to 45 was to accomplish things, improve things that he's already proven. He has proven his TB12 method for quarterbacks works way better than the Coors Light method for Big Ben, whatever Breeze was doing, whatever any of these other guys have done, because those guys are way younger than him, and they went out on their shields. Brady is 44 and almost won league MVP. He went to Tampa. He's been there 2 years. His first year, he not only won the Super Bowl, ending the Brady-Belichick debate, he beat Mahomes, preemptively, potentially ending that debate 15 years from now. And the next year, he almost won league MVP. Maybe he will win it. Probably going to finish second. So there is an element of, I know he always says, Broussard, my favorite Super Bowl is the next one. But I do wonder if it's finally been quenched, that he has accomplished everything he came here to accomplish and then some. And so I'm not predicting that he's going to be done. I don't even know if I'm picking the Rams in this game. But I don't think it's ridiculous. And I think the people who are saying it should be listened to.
Look, you make a fair point, Nick, because what else is there for him to prove? There's nothing, all right? And it's sexy to go out on top, right? That's romantic. We love it. And even if they were to lose this game this weekend or next weekend, whenever, and he doesn't go out with a Super Bowl, he's still going out on top because he played such a great year this season. I think should be MVP, probably will finish second, but he was fantastic. Here's the thing about going out on top, Wilds. It's tough, man, when you leave something in the tank. Jim Brown went out on top.
That's
and
true.
at 48 years old, he wanted to race Franco Harris in the 40-yard dash. Michael Jordan went out on top, but then came back a few years later because he wanted to play for the Washington Wizards and show some stuff.
That's a great
Barry
call.
Sanders and Calvin Johnson, they were with bad teams that didn't have a chance to win. So it's hard to go out on top when you still think you can win and dominate the sport.
He loves it. He just loves it so much. We got to go. Undisputed starting right now. Have a great day.